All right, so good evening, everyone. It is 8 o'clock. I am going to get started with our Redox Talks tonight. My name is Jane Zeeher, and I am here to share a breakthrough that can change your life. So Zeeher products have came into my life about 3 years ago. I'm not one of these people who was sick. I didn't have anything major going on, but I was convinced by the science, and what I've experienced are things like persistent seasonal changes in my joints that are no longer there. I have had massive skin issues all my life, and I'm finding that they are clearing up far, far more rapidly. I've never been someone who needed a massive amount of sleep, but I'm finding that I need even less sleep, and the quality of sleep that I get is better. Being a woman of a certain age, I was also finding there were things going on that were not great anymore, and so I've managed to find that I feel a lot younger in certain departments, if we can say that. My husband has also experienced hair regrowing in the little solar panel that he had on the top of his head, amongst other things as well. So we, as a couple of an older age, have found that there's some amazing things going on, and yeah, I just love these products, and I'm so happy to share them. So we have a very special guest tonight, someone who I have known since the first meeting that she came to, which is very exciting, and that's Terry Dimond. She's going to share her redox experience, which is quite profound, so I'm really looking forward to her chatting with you. Before we get started though, I invite you to think about a few questions to get in touch with what you're looking for in your life. So, do you have a health challenge? Or do you know of someone with a health challenge who needs help? What would you like to reduce the visible signs of aging? I can't think of anybody who wouldn't like to look a bit more youthful and feel a lot more youthful. Do you need more energy to do what you love, whether that's race around on a sports field or chase grandchildren around? Who wouldn't want more energy? Talking of the sports field, are you an athlete, whatever that looks like, who's looking for improved performance? What about time or money freedom? Are you looking for either of those to have a better lifestyle? So to live really well, we all need two basic things. We need a body that can do whatever you ask it to do, and enough money to ask it to do some really great things. To have that body, you might be exercising. You might be watching your diet. You might be taking nutritional supplements. You might be doing everything that you can think of, or you might not be doing anything at all. Frustratingly, no matter what you do, as you age, your cells respond less effectively to all of these strategies. You might be doing everything you can think of, but your cells naturally began to break down. They produce energy less effectively, and they repair themselves less quickly, so more slowly. Getting myself caught up here. If your cells could be just a little bit more efficient, your exercise, nutrition supplementation, and everything else you do could be more effective, and therefore you could be healthier longer with less effort. Now, several years ago, scientists made a groundbreaking discovery. They identified molecules natively produced inside the body that help your cells repair and regenerate. Once discovered, years of research and development went into figuring out how to produce these molecules outside of the body so that they could be used as a nutritional supplement. The result is a molecular technology that helps your cells work better. And when your cells work better, everything works better. So your exercise and diet efforts become more productive, nutritional supplementation works better, you feel better, you look better, you sleep better, and you have more energy. So with that in mind, I'd like to hear from our special guest on their redox experience. And just to introduce you, I will unmute you in a second, Terry. Terry, you'll hear her story. She was bitten by a tick 50 years ago here in Victoria. And you'll hear how she struggled with her health, the devastation that was the result of that bite, and how she was challenged in finding a diagnosis, and then being introduced to the molecules back in August of 2015. She's going to tell us about the journey that she's come on in the interim, and then in that time from 2015 to now. So let me find you, Terry, and get you unmuted. Unless you unmute yourself, Terry. How's that? It's probably going to be simpler than me finding you. Sorry, she's going to be forced to put her glasses on now. How are you? Welcome.
Oh, good. Thanks, Jane. Thanks. Lovely to be here tonight to explain my little journey with my tick-bite illness. See ya.
So Terry, tell us, obviously I was at that home meeting that you came to back in August 2015. I remember meeting you that day. But tell us what life was like for you prior to coming along, because you had a massive journey over that time.
I did. Well, it started at around about 15 when I was bitten, riding my horse, bitten by a tick, and I had the rash. But at the time, we had no idea, no doctor could diagnose what was wrong with me. They just said I was sort of lazy, and if the house was on fire, I'd get out of bed. And my parents took me everywhere looking for an answer. But I just got, over the years, that illness, the worst part was the burning and the aching and the blinding physical discomfort. You know, it was just with me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the nausea and just, there's so many symptoms. The brain fog was one of the worst. The lack of not comprehension, but just retaining anything. I can read and reread and reread and reread and not take anything in. But fortunately, I can still talk. I can talk a lot.
So at this time, at that stage, Terry, you were still a teenager?
I was a teenager. I had a
and you've been very active.
I'd had a scholarship. I was in all the first teams. I was a bit of a golden girl, swam in the Victorian Championships, you know. I had a wonderful, wonderful life. I had a lovely family. I was, you know, totally loved and looked after, and life was great. So actually becoming that ill, when they tried to pin it down as mental, and my bowel stopped working. I had to have enemas to get my bowel going, and yeah, it went on from there. One by one, all the organs in my body were affected.
What sort of time period was that?
Well, just for the last 50 years, it's just been one thing after another. By the 80s, early 80s, this was in the late 60s, you know, late 60s, mid to late 60s, I was bitten. Then by 82, I had to change my whole life. I was going to Melbourne University doing physical education, and that just, I couldn't even go in a science lab. I was so, the chemicals from the formaldehyde, all the odours used to knock me out, and I'd just go to sleep. I slept through French and German, and I had to drop all the subjects that I love and just change my life completely. I had major chronic fatigue and burning from that age on. All my life I've had it. Until,
okay.
Yeah. So by the early 80s, I was allergic to the 20th century. I wasn't making digestive enzymes. I was, every chemical and food made me sick, and I went through an allergy unit at Bethesda Hospital. Every single food, I had about 6 foods or so to eat, and I just had to live in clean air. And I suppose anyone old enough will remember those days of people being diagnosed with that. And then from then on, by the mid-90s, my whole gut and bowel literally blew apart, and I was out at Fairfield Hospital. They just pumped me full of antibiotics. They had no idea what was going on. But fortunately, the greatest gut and bowel man of the time, Rob Allen, I was fortunate enough to see him, and he later became professor at NIM, which is integrative medicine. And he literally rebuilt my gut and bowel, and we sent off tests to America at a great expense to the management. Let me tell you, $1,000 a time. They were huge expenses. And what they found in the mid-90s, they found all the co-infections of tick-bite illness, but they never found the tick-bite illness. Tick-bite illness itself, which is by definition a name, but they found a lot of the other co-infections, so which we now know were co-infections. So we rebuilt all, you know, I was very ill then, and I had a lot of near-death experience, and but we could never get well, and he could never work out why, despite everything we did and all the money I spent and all the treatments I had on, there was always this major problem in my body. And it went from the digestive enzymes not being, creating them. I had to take lots and lots of supplements to rebuild the gut and the bowel, and I lived on brown rice and spun out and surfing and surging through the veins and what have you from all these parasites and bacteria that were within my body. So that took, a good 10 years of rebuilding gut and bowel, and it was a lot of money. And I'd had gone to another doctor who was literally a tick bite literate doctor who studied it a lot and is doing his very best to help people. He's now at NIM too. And he said to me, you do realise, he'd sent me on to Rob Allen at the time, and he said to me, you do realise you have the tick bite illness, don't you? And I went, yes, I do know. Yeah, I do. But did I want to spend a couple of $1,000 sending a test to Germany to find out, when a couple of $1,000 worth of tablets and treatments and, kinesiology and all the different treatments you could do were and even bug killers at the time would have been more effective.
We've gone a long way, yeah. So you were working on the basis that you knew that's what it was, based on all the other symptoms and the cofactors.
Yeah, we did send it off to Germany, and yes, it was conclusive.
Okay. All right. So you've talked about some of the symptoms. One of the ones that you mentioned was the brain fog. What was that like?
Oh, that's horrendous. There's a very beautiful speech by Marisol Thomas, Rob Thomas of Matchbox 20's wife, and she explains it beautifully. And you're just existing. You're not living. At no stage of my life have I lived. I can honestly tell you that. I've stayed alive because I was a type A person with a strong belief that I am well. I never believed I was sick. I always, even when in the ambulance dying and in the hospital dying, and I'd say, I'm well. I never saw myself as a sick person. And I think that's part of how you survive. You have to stay strong. Even though they're in your brain and they're doing all these terrible things, I had a strong belief, and I'd practice yoga from early childhood, as my father had a duodenal ulcer that hemorrhaged, and we all went off to yoga. So and meditation. So I'd had that practice throughout my life, and a strong will to be seeing myself as well. I am well. I never saw myself as a sick person.
Okay, so by now we're in the where are we in terms of
mid-90s, and then we just kept on going. By 2006 I was having lots of heart issues, and my heart stopped. A section of my heart wasn't working. There was so much pain in the heart, and that's when I had a lot of trouble, a lot of trips in the ambulance, a lot of glad to wake up in that bed opposite the desk where they're all watching you. You're in big trouble, and I have no fear of death now, because it's quite a beautiful journey up into the white stillness. Is beautiful. But so by then my heart was in big trouble, and my thyroid had literally completely collapsed from an autoimmune disease, same as Justin had, and also 2 tumours, but benign, fortunately, benign. But there was not.
You're in a bit of a mess, I think it was safe to say.
Yeah, I was very ill. So the thyroid was removed. I couldn't swallow, or I had to sit up. I couldn't breathe. I was having a lot of trouble. So they took out the thyroid, which I would say to anybody, we have been given the gift of this amazing product.
Which we'll get to.
Which, oh my God, I would never recommend having a thyroid. Really, seriously, it changes everything. I doubled in size. I just, it was like hot, cold. I was all over the place. But anyway. So
I'm going to do my best to actually share a picture. Of course, I haven't got that ready, but so I'm going to frustrate everybody while I try and look for it, I'm sure. But tell me a little bit about how you came to be at that meeting back in August in 2015, and what you saw, and what made you decide to go.
I was very ill by 2015. I was really ill, and I know the symptoms of. I was out of money, out of life, out of everything. And I thought, what am I going to do? I just had this faith that this thing was not going to kill me. Whatever, it was never going to kill me. And just before I heard about this amazing product, I did have the test that we sent to Germany. So I knew what it was. And then my friend, Sharon Wild, naturopath, she phoned me and said, there's this guy in Queensland that's really well. You really should take a look at this product. And that's where it started. Yeah, I came along to, it's a no-brainer for me. If someone actually gets well, you listen to what they've done and you take in what they're saying. And Justin was the greatest help. You know, he told me with his knowledge, his medical, knowledge, he just told me what he'd done and what I'd done and what, and it was just the missing part of the puzzle, absolutely.
So because he'd gone through exactly the same experience or a very similar experience with a similar disease, that gave you the confidence to try? What do you think it was the confidence?
I just would have tried it no matter what. If you're going to tell me that someone with this illness is well and you've done everything in your life and everything you possibly can, your parents have spent a fortune on you, you've spent all your money just goes on staying alive, basically. It's a terrible, terrible illness,
So tell us about how you started with the product, because you back then we only had access to the gel, didn't we?
We only had the gel, and I just started very, very slowly, and I just put it on my like a blueberry size, and I slept and I slept and I slept, and I was just thinking, what is going on here? It really knocked me around, just the gel. So I say to people, look, be kind to yourself. If you're doing a detox, just be kind. Drink your water, do your saunas, do all the detox things you can. But if you're as sick of 50 years of having these little critters all through my body and they're in every organ, they cross the airways, they're across your airways and you can't breathe. Imagine what it's like not being able to breathe and it not being relieved by puffers, by, the conventional. When they die, they say, oh, that's that illness, that you need a puffer for, and you need this and that, and you use that and it does nothing. It's really scary stuff, really scary stuff.
So you started using the gel, Terry, and where did you start applying it? How much did you use and what did you start to see?
Around my neck.
Yep.
And that was it to start with. I just put it there and, on the neck especially because I had these spasming along there. And so I used to just put it on there and I drank a lot of water and I slept and slept and slept. It was just unbelievable. It was so unbelievable. And to this day, I just cannot believe my mum's just broken her hip and she's 90 and I've just spent 4 weeks up all day and well into the night, driving 2 hours backwards and forwards when she was in hospital to town. I just started taking the other product, which
the nutritional, are we talking about, or are we talking about the drink?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just started taking that, and that seems to have made a major change. It seems to have integrated.
Okay. Before we go there, so you were just using a little bit of gel, and then how quickly were you able to start increasing it? What happened when you tried the drink?
It took a long time, and I made it to the convention in February up on the Gold Coast, and I met Verdus Norton, and
that was February in 2016.
Yeah, and I just adore that man and his humanity, his compassion, and he's just the most beautiful human being. And, he asks you your story, tell me your story. And then he says, and he hugged me and he said, and this is why we do it, because I was gone. I was out of life. I knew that things were looking really bad. I had 50 years of damage in my body.
So you slept a lot. At what stage did you increase the gel?
Just eventually I just kept putting it on and just eventually I just kind of, it's really hard to remember because with a brain like mine, it's really hard to remember facts. I know I should have written it down, but you just don't go there when you've got a lime brain. Oh, a tick by brain. You just don't go there, it's really hard to remember. And that's
sure. So what changes have you seen? Obviously, you're upright and your energy. Actually, I'm going to try and share a picture. I'm not certain how I do this.
I never used to let people see this side of me. This is me. There would be a lot of people in my life who had no idea I was ever this sick because I never believed that people needed to see that side of me.
Sorry, I'm not very technically adept here, people, but I think you can see that was Terry back in August 2015, and then obviously you can see what she looks like now in December. This is December 2017. So obviously you're looking much healthier, much happier. What else has changed for you, Terry?
Well, to not live with that that incredible burning, aching, like I used to have to will every step. And, you know, to go upstairs at times, I spent a lot of my life in bed and asleep, a lot of my life, hidden from the world. But to, you know, I will myself to take every step, and that to not have that burning, blinding, the head, you know, not having that blinding head. And just, I got to a point where I could put the gel on when it came. I just rub it on, and sometimes 3 times, you know, or whatever, and it would go. And to not live with that is just the most, it's the greatest blessing in life. You know, I'm so grateful. I'm just so grateful.
Have you also found, Terry, that you've reduced other therapies or treatments that you were taking? So,
well, now I have, because I'm just taking the nutritional supplement, and yeah, I have. But I still take things to make sure they, on the bioresonance machine, it doesn't show up anymore. Now, it was showing up until about 6 months ago. So I haven't really said anything to anybody, because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just having a little sleep, as it does, but it just isn't showing up, and it used to show up.
it being the bugs, or
the main bug. The main
bug. Okay, which is pretty amazing. This is the tick-borne bacteria itself.
It hasn't been there for 6 months or more.
Wow, that must be amazing.
Yeah, pretty happy about that.
And so you mentioned that nutritional we've only had access to for about 3 weeks now. How has that impacted you?
Well, when I first started taking it, I had to keep going. I felt like I had a bit of, not that I've ever had cystitis, but bladder.
Urinary tract infections, yeah.
Yeah. But I felt like I had to keep going to the loo, but I wasn't going. So that was when I first started on it for about a week. I'm thinking, what's going on here? Have I got a bug? What's going on? But then that just passed, and now I feel good. I feel like I'm absorbing, and yeah, I feel good. I feel like it's working with the converting to energy, which is very exciting for someone that's had major chronic fatigue their whole life. It's really, you know, to not have to get out of bed and go, you can do it, keep going, you know, you're well, you know, you can do this, keep going, you know. Yeah, awesome. Very exciting. I'm, you know, I would tell everybody, and anyone that has friends in that tick bite community, it is the greatest thing in 50 years I have ever seen. And I know a lot of them have used so many things, and, you know, they're going, oh, here comes another thing. But yeah, it's the real deal. It's the real deal.
I suppose from what we know about how it works, it's foundational, isn't it? It is the thing that makes the difference above all other things.
It's the missing. It's just magic. It is a miracle. We're so blessed to have it, and those who hear are so blessed, you know.
Talking of which, I just want to say thank you so much to you, Terry. Thank you to everyone for showing up. And I do need to say that obviously there are other things you could have been doing tonight, but really appreciate your attendance here. Also need to say that Zeeher products are not intended to diagnose, treat or cure any condition. They simply empower cellular communication and cellular function. So if you would like to know more about the products that Terry has talked about tonight and the other products, please get back to the person who invited you to be here tonight and watch this presentation, and they'll let you know how you can get started to have your own redox experience. So thanks everybody, really appreciate it. If there's any questions, I'm just going to check. I don't think there are. I think people are just saying thank you. Thanks Terry, so good to see you improving every day. So, and it's fantastic. I can absolutely attest to that. You're looking absolutely amazing, Terry, and I've never been afraid to share your story, but you know, incredibly brave in the way that you've faced this. So thank you so much for being you and being here tonight. Thanks everyone. I'm going to stop the recording, and you can all say goodbye.